Despite what a lot of Christian thinkers think about Jordan Peterson, I personally really enjoy listening to him. I think he's a fascinating mind, a fascinating person, and has a lot of really good things to offer the world through his teaching. I think he has probably brought about the conversion of many, many agnostic and atheist leaning folks to the Christian faith through his work, just simply because he has so brilliantly pointed to the necessity of the objective, the necessity of the good, and it's a kind of a ressourcement of the Platonic worldview that Christianity in part adopted, and that I think a lot of people fell out of and are starting to reawaken to, which is leading them to seek truth and seek answers, and at the heart of that is the Christian faith. And so 3 cheers for Jordan Peterson and what he's doing. However, that said, I did just want to touch on something that I saw. I've been searching and searching. I just can't find the exact quote for it because I wanted to include it in the video, but I believe it was in his conversation with Richard Dawkins. Jordan Peterson is kind of pushed into a corner, and he's talking about the biblical text and how he's digging for the meaning, and he said he reaches a point where his knowledge cannot go beyond that. His ability to comprehend cannot go beyond that. And because of that, he essentially says, like, that's the limit in terms of where I can go, because I can only go as far as I can know. Like, I can't verify this or that, and so I can't go any further. I can't speak to the truth of that claim or the historicity of this claim because my knowledge, my ability simply cannot go there. And I was thinking about this, and I think that this is a good portrait for the problem with a lot of the way in which Western people today, post-Enlightenment, have started to think about religion and God and the Christian faith. And it's very much a question of, do I understand it? And if I reach a point where I no longer have the ability to understand, I cannot accept it. And to me, that tells me that a lot of times people are approaching the Christian faith as purely a list of propositional truths that are either affirmed or denied based upon the credibility that they have in the eye of the beholder. And I want to make the case that the fundamental claim of the Christian faith is that God became man because God is beyond man, and man has no way of reaching to God except by and through Christ. There is a point where our knowledge drops off. There is a point where our understanding goes no further. There is a point in which we have to simply recognize that when we are speaking of God, we are speaking of something that is wholly beyond us. And so therefore, the difference between a character like Jordan Peterson and a Christian is not the depth of inquiry into the Christian faith. God bless him for that. It is the fact that the Christian, when they reach that point where they can no longer exhaust the text any further, and they've reached a point where they can no longer press their intellect anymore, they recognize that they have come face to face with the Almighty and living God, and the only due response to that is to submit in humble faith. You see, faith is, I don't want to say faith is without understanding, but faith is a trust in something bigger than your intellect and your understanding. Faith is the part of Christianity where we entrust ourselves to a reality that we cannot contain. And I think Jordan Peterson represents the impulse in so many people to contain the reality itself in their small, finite minds. And when he's not able to fully do that, because he reaches a true point where he's talking about things that no human being can talk about, he sees that as, I'm not there yet. When I would say, no, that's exactly when you need to admit that you are there. And that's when the step of, God, I trust in you, takes place. I hope it makes sense what I'm saying. because I think our world has been so conditioned to only accept things on the basis of we can comprehend and understand them, that no longer can we actually even accurately talk about God. I mean, you hear this. So many people speak of God as though he's this big guy somewhere up there, as though he's one of these pagan gods, the gods that lives within the realm of reality, that is consigned to reality, that operates underneath reality, and is therefore not the preeminent, eternal, unchanging, immutable God, but rather the largest, biggest, most powerful in this thing that we call reality. And when you conceptualize God that way, it makes a whole lot of sense that you would try to understand that God and not want to accept all the claims of what this God says is right and good and true, unless you can fully wrap your mind around exactly who this character is that you're talking to. And yet, when it comes to the Christian God, we're talking about something wholly other, something that we have no human category to categorize, something so far beyond our capacity as humanity to understand that the church has actually said God is unknowable. Think about that. God is unknowable. The finite cannot know the infinite. It's just a fact of who we are and who God is. There's a creator-creature divide. And Jordan and people like him keep bumping into that creator-creature divide and thinking that that is simply a sign that they need to push harder and further because they're not there yet. When in reality, that's simply the wall of invitation. I think that's the best way to say it. That point of bumping into something you do not understand and cannot understand is the wall of invitation, where God invites you into himself through that which you can understand in part, which is Christ, a man. You know, I have an icon sitting right across behind the camera of the Lord Jesus Christ. I can look upon that icon and I can say, that is God. That is God. I don't understand the incarnation. That's a holy mystery far beyond my brain. But that, a man, I can see that. I can grab that and I can cling to that as my link between that which is beyond me and that which condescends to me, so that I can become more than what I am right now. And so my encouragement to those watching is just to recognize this tendency in ourselves as well as within our culture, and to call people into a recognition that oftentimes, if they're holed up in taking that final step into the Christian faith, is that they think that they just haven't fully understood all of its claims. It might be that they are simply reaching a point where they're recognizing they don't fully understand God, and they have a wrong view of God that's compelling them to continue to try to think about God until they somehow master him, almost. And we should encourage them to recognize that the Christian faith is chiefly one of humility and recognizing, I do not know who that is, other than this, the incarnation, which links me to that reality of who God is. We have to have that humility. We have to see God as wholly other. Because if we don't, we've reduced God into simply a large creature, and that is not worthy of worship. It's not worthy of worship.